Well, hello and welcome to our backyard garden here in the South Carolina upstate. We just finished our front yard garden video a moment ago, and we're going to do the backyard now. It's Friday, November 9th, 2024. Beautiful Friday morning. We've had rain for the last 3 days, but as you can see, there's no rain right now. And it's supposed to hit close to 80 degrees today, which is fantastic. I don't know if that's a record down here, but it certainly is going to be welcome after how wet it's been this week. But we still have not had a frost, and that's why our garden is still doing so well. So we're going to show that off here in a moment, starting with these daisies, which are just about finished. We've been showing these the last few weeks. This is primarily a fall plant. They don't bloom for long, and I think this will be our last week of them. There's just a handful left. Not terribly exciting to look at. So we'll move on. This area, if you've been watching through the year, this area was just full of cleome earlier in the year, but they're all pretty much done, with the exception of the occasional little plant that still is coming up. We've got this one, and then certainly more of them over here. These just got a late start, and they're still fully in bloom. The interesting thing about cleome, and I say this every week, but I just think it's really interesting when you look at the majority of the plants that we have in our backyard, and I think most gardens, they have a very specific schedule based on the amount of light in the day. And so they'll get to this point in the year and they start to wither. We've certainly seen that with zinnias and a number of our other plants. Even though we haven't had a frost, things are largely winding down because they just know it's that time of the year based on the length of the day and the amount of light they have. But these cleome, since they come up from seed, whenever the seeds go in, they come up and they bloom. So we started seeing these in April, and here it is mid-November, and they're still coming up. Whereas ones across the way here that did come up back in the spring, they're done. They actually, I should probably just pull them out. The seed pods are gone. I leave them in even after they've died off, just to make sure that the seeds get into the ground. So we'll have a nice big crop of these next year as well. They've been fun to watch. But the interesting thing is, where all the seeds have gone, we're still getting new plants coming up here in the stones and other places. This is not necessarily where I want them, but it just shows it doesn't matter the time of the year. They're not going to wait until spring. They're coming up now. So it's a little different than a lot of plants that wait until the timing is right. We have some more over here. This one is just recently finished up, but you can see the seed pods here. And they really put out a prolific number of seeds, which is why they have really taken over this part of the yard. So continuing on down, most things are finished up. We have these big hydrangeas, which are done. Just the seed pods left and a few leaves. Here we have some zinnias, smaller zinnias than what we had in the front yard, and they're still putting out some nice pink flowers. Some vinca through here. We have a nice celosia here that's giving us some really pretty blooms, even though it's pretty late in the year. Most other things are about done. We do have some really nice azaleas that continue to bloom. Every time I come out here, I think, okay, well, this is probably going to be the last week, but I've been thinking that now for about 3 weeks. Typically what we see is you get fall color with flowers like this and leaves and so forth on the trees, especially across the far side of our pond. We get a lot of color, but then we'll get an extensive rain, and that makes most of the leaves fall off. Well, that didn't really happen here. A lot of the leaves are gone, as you can see. It's definitely has a very fall look to it, but the rhododendrons, or rather the azaleas, I should say, they look like rhododendrons, but they are still fully in bloom. We have 3 or 4, wait, it's 6 total, but 3 or 4 of them in particular are really strongly in bloom, and the colors are almost as widespread as they are during the spring, which is so cool to watch. Now here we have some begonias, which looked like they were kind of finishing up a few weeks ago, and they've gotten their second wind. Now that things are a little cooler, they're hanging in there. Even with all the leaves, they are still nice and bright. And coming down here, we've got impatiens, which typically are peaking in September. Even though we haven't had a frost, they are just kind of winding down as the year progresses. And we've got a few flowers left, and then these will continue to bloom probably until the first frost, and then they'll be done. But they're not as prolific as they were, but they're still doing pretty well, definitely giving us some color. Back in here, not a lot to show off. As I say, the azaleas are finishing up, and we still may get another couple of weeks of color out of those. Back here we have vinca, not really flowering at this point, at least not on this side. We have our big knockout rose here, which is I think done for the year. Has a couple of flowers left, but this is the one that had been eaten down to the ground by beavers, but it has come back, and I think it'll be nice and big next year. And then we have some more zinnias in here. We have a nice big gardenia here that is going to bloom probably in late January. It's got a few buds on it already. Big red flowers that are really pretty at a time when you don't really have a whole lot else in the garden, so they're very welcome. They're kind of a sign that winter is coming to an end soon, and that spring will be right around the corner. This is typically the first one that really blooms in a large way, so we're going to be looking forward to that. We have several of those. That one and this one over here are the big ones. They've really taken off in size in the past couple of years. We're probably going to need to trim them back a little bit so they don't take over, as they have a tendency to do. But I would say the gardenias and the daffodils are the first things to bloom once we get into mid to late January. Now over here on this side, and we've seen this every year, the vinca over here tend to do better throughout the year, and they bloom later too. These big white ones, and even some of the lavender ones. That's probably the single most successful plant that we have of all of our vinca. Now this is a hibiscus, and it has not given us a lot of flowers. The plant itself has done wonderfully. It's a nice big green plant. I went right past the hibiscus on this side, which has not done as well. It struggled because we put it in the middle of summer and didn't get it enough water. So it struggled, although it's still alive. It does have a couple of buds. This is a red one. The one over here is yellow. Each of them had a flower on them last week. So if we don't get any frosts for a while, we'll probably still have some more of those before the year is out. More zinnias through here, some vinca, some more wildflowers back in here that I don't have a name for, but neither my wife nor I can remember when we got these or exactly what they are, but we like them anyway. Got a little tea rose here. It's getting ready to bloom. Not a lot else in this area. Our butterfly bush is now officially finished. And strangely enough, just kind of out of nowhere, this celosia, which a friend gave us, is doing absolutely great. It's really kind of thriving. I don't know if this is primarily a fall flower, but it certainly looks like it with the number of blooms that it's getting. And I'm hoping this will come back and do well next year. We'll find out. All of our zinnias up in this area are done for the year. We still have some marigolds hanging in there. Then more zinnias. Strangely enough, we had a little ground rose that we had put in, I don't know, midsummer, I think, and something ate it down to the ground a couple of weeks ago. Got one single clematis flower there. We have a dahlia here that never really amounted to much, and I think most of this bed is finished. Coming back through here, our wisteria has lost most of its leaves this week, but that'll come back strong next spring. And then down here, I think everything is about finished. Our canna are done. They're not, at least they're not flowering at this point. We had our last flower, I think, 2 weeks ago, the yellow ones over here. We're going to really have to work hard to clear some of these out of the beds. They've spread beyond where we wanted them, and if you don't get aggressive with them, they will take over a bed in no time, so we have to be really cautious about that. And then pretty much everything else here is done. Black-eyed Susans, daylilies, all kinds of things that we've had throughout the year. I've left some of this debris from Hurricane Helene, which was now about 6 weeks ago, I think, today. And here was our high water mark from the pond. It was up about 3 feet or so, I would say, above normal, which for a small pond like this is really saying something. And this log washed in. I haven't gotten around to getting rid of that, but it doesn't hurt to kind of remind yourself of what nature can do when it's not real happy with you. I think our climbing roses are just about finished. I have a couple little pink flowers here, but for the most part they're done. So I'll head up to the house and finish this up. Not a lot left. In fact, really in the last week or so, we've seen a lot more attrition with just about everything. Roses here, which were blooming big purple flowers about 3 weeks ago, they're done. Got a handful of vinca through here, more weeds than anything. These roses are finished. Do have these marigolds that went in from seed, and you can see they're covered with moths and bumblebees right now. But they're still doing really well. And we have some tomatoes here. I'm just gonna pick them for the heck of it. Some of these are ready to go. Haven't had a lot of tomatoes this year, but the ones we've had have been really healthy for the most part. And there we go. This week's crop. One big white rose right here, which is absolutely beautiful. It's doing well. And let's see what else. We had some clematis last week. They're about done. Back in here, I think I said probably as many weeds back in that area as anything else. A few zinnias left. Again, a few of the vinca hanging on. We had a couple tomatoes up in this area, but they've, I think, pretty much finished up for the year. And the more of the climbing roses, these pink ones, we have 4 of these, and every one of them has just grown dramatically and put out thousands of flowers throughout the year. This one is really the only one that's still going at this point, and doesn't have a large number of flowers, but it does have some. And a few more over here. And then a few zinnias over in this area. These were all from seed this year. My wife had a virtual seed factory up on our porch. We got these things all in the early summer, and they've all done very, very well. We also have some growing up here, so I've started extending these video tours up onto our porch. We have a morning glory here, which is about finished. Another one over here, which is in the process of getting finished up, but it does have a few really nice, very big flowers. Still some blooms, or I'm sorry, buds. They're gonna come out probably tomorrow. So that one will continue to bloom for a while yet. Some more marigolds, all from seed. Vinca, same thing. And then a few flowers that we bought back in the spring, back in May. We put these in. Geraniums, petunias, etc. They're still doing very well. And a little bit of phlox in there. And then over on this side, almost entirely marigolds. And they're all doing very, very well. As long as they get watered. That's really the only thing they have required so far is water. As long as they get that, we haven't even had to fertilize them. They've done really, really well on their own. And then the last thing to show off is this begonia, which is actually inside. This has done remarkably well. We thought it was going to die off because our cats had a tendency to get up in this pot and lay down here. Broke off a significant part of the rest of the plant, but it has come back. And the flowers themselves are particularly beautiful, very tropical looking, and it makes you think of the South Seas. And they've just been really a nice little addition to our indoor porch, or I say semi-indoor porch, as we just have it screened in. And that, I believe, is it for our backyard. So, as I say, even though we're late in the year, there's still a fair amount to show off, and I'm glad you were able to join us this week. I'll make one other little mention. I had talked about our grass and what we were doing with that. I don't talk about grass very often, but we've had a lot of problems with our grass. The previous owners of our house had not really done anything to fertilize it or help it out, and we had chronically just a lot of weed problems, and the grass had underperformed. So we had somebody come in this year and overseeded just about a month ago and aerated with the little cores coming out, and I'm seeing new grass coming up. You can see, if you look closely, a lot of this light green young grass. So hopefully next year we're going to have a nicer backyard, and so hopefully you'll be around to see it. If you tune in, we should start these videos back up in probably, I would say, early February, maybe even late January if we have anything to look at. So we'll find out. It's just going to be a couple months from now. So until next time, hope it's sunny wherever you are, and happy gardening.